Great seeing you here again. My name is Luc de Custer, founder of the Custer Academy, and this video is about Scrum. I will give you an overview how Scrum works. In the previous video, we looked at some terminology related to Scrum, but here I will go through the different steps, of Scrum itself. But before we continue, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. Now, we look at Scrum, and when we look at Scrum, I want to go back to the advantages and the disadvantages before we continue. Now, when we look at Scrum, we have more transparency and project visibility. In Scrum, we have something what we call the daily stand-up meetings. And this is a powerful way to communicate with the people, keep the people and the team focused, and you bring what you're doing to the team, and you bring also the issues that you are having. And this provides an immediate resolution of issues because the team will be working on them together. They will understand what's going on. We have increased team accountability. The team is in charge, and as a team that's working well, the team wants to have that success. All team members work together to reach the success, to have a successful sprint, every successful sprint, and a successful project completion at the end of all the work, or when the customer decides that the project is finished. In Scrum, we can accommodate changes very easily. We have short sprints, 2 to 4 weeks, and there is constant feedback from the user. And at the end of every sprint, that feedback can be used to be integrated in the next sprint. We can look at the priorities, we can look at changes that have to be done, things that have to be remediated immediately, because we can do that. We don't have a complete detailed planning that has to be changed every time we change something. And of course, one of the main advantages of Scrum are the increased cost savings. Now, we win time and we win money because we will have a product working faster, and the moment the product can be used, it can bring in money. You can start working with it. Basically, your return is a lot faster, and the time to develop a working product is a lot shorter. Of course, Scrum also has some disadvantages. There is the risk of scope creep. Now, there is not really an end date of the project. And we can say, okay, we still have money, we still have time, we can still include things that are not necessarily needed for the project. But we still have time, we still have money, and we tend to use that time and spend the money, which is in some cases, of course, a disadvantage. Now, the team requires experience and commitment. You have to have a team with experience, and they have to be committed. Now, there is no formal project manager. The team has to lead itself. The team has to be organized on its own and finding a way to do it. The Scrum Master has no authority over the team. The Scrum Master takes away the objections, the problems that the team may have, but it's not leading the team. The importance of the Scrum Master is a very important person in the project in the Scrum, because the Scrum Master has no authority. Now, you have to see, as a Scrum Master, that the team will do the work. You take away the items that block the work, but you as a Scrum Master, you cannot take any decisions. It's the team that has to do it, and you have to put your trust in the team. Now, sometimes poorly identified or defined tasks can or will lead to inaccuracies. When we have unclear goals, poorly defined tasks, these can lead to increased sprints and reduced performance. So it's very important that we take into account all these disadvantages and assure that nothing happens, that we deal with them and that we understand what can go wrong and do something about it. Let's have a look at the roles in Scrum. In Scrum, we have different roles. First of all, we have the product owner. Then we have the Scrum Master. And then we have the Scrum team. So these are the main players in Scrum. The product owner is the person or the company with the vision and communicates that vision to the team. Now, when you look at the product owner, they're also in contact with the market and they have to prioritize the work to stay in focus with the market, to see that the work that is being done is really supportive for the company to deal with the business in the market. Now, it also is very important that the product owner provides guidance on what to ship next, what is the next step that we have to do. And the product owner communicates, interacts with the stakeholders and the team so that everybody understands what work is still in the backlog. The Scrum Master is also considered the coach of the team. Now, the Scrum Master assists the team. It's not leading. Now, the Scrum Master typically organizes meetings, deals with roadblocks, looks at challenges, and works with the product owner to ensure the backlog is ready for the next sprint. So product owner and Scrum Master are very important because they are understanding what's happening, and then the Scrum Master and the product owner create the work to be done by the Scrum team. Now, typically a team is 5 to 7 people. People have no distinct roles in the team, and all team members complete the set of work together. All work is done together. They work as a team, and it's not somebody doing one thing and then adding it to the other. No, it's the team working together. When we look at the Scrum process and the Scrum cycle, we see first of all the product backlog. Here are all the items that are in the backlog organized in priority, all the things that the product owner thinks are important for the project. From the product backlog, a reduced backlog is used or determined, which is the sprint backlog. And these contain all the stories that will lead to the end product, to the product that will be created at the end of this cycle. And then we have a sprint iteration. A sprint iteration takes 2 to 4 weeks. And during that sprint iteration, the sprint backlog will be completed and daily stand-ups will be organized where the team will in fact talk about the work that has been done, the problems they have, so that the Scrum Master can deal with them. At the end, we will have a new product increment. And after the cycle, after the sprint, there are the retrospectives. There is also a sprint review, and we also have the retrospectives. But let's have a look at these different elements in the following slides. First of all, we have the sprint. The sprint, what we have is typically between 2 and 4 weeks. It can be less, probably not more. We want to have those short, very quick product increments. The result of the sprint is that specific product increment that has been defined at the beginning of the sprint, and for that all the different stories have been added to the sprint backlog. When we finish the work, the sprint backlog should be empty. The length and start time are always the same. So whenever you have work that is unfinished, you will never extend the sprint. The sprint is always limited to the fixed time that you set at the beginning of the project. The scope is fixed during the sprint. The scope is basically the sprint backlog. And now what you're going to measure is you're going to measure how many points that were realized during that sprint. And we're going to evaluate how this number of points, the work, the effort that is completed, evolves over time. And according to people in Scrum, it should increase not with 10, 20%, but with 100 and 200% once the team starts working. So you have to follow up what is happening here, how does it work, what is the improvements or what are the improvements that the team is in fact realizing. So that's about the sprint itself. Let's now have a look at the daily Scrum and stand-ups. Now, daily Scrum or the stand-up is done every day at the same time. It's always the same time. People stand up, doesn't take more than 15 minutes, and the people share the information about the project. They're standing close to the board to say what they're doing. There are some discussions about the stand-up and people might not be concentrated. It may happen that people are thinking what to say and they're not listening to what the other people are saying. You have to find the best way how to do it, because the daily stand-up only works well if everybody is listening to the others and thinking about something else, thinking about what you're going to say may not be the best way to do the daily stand-up. There are some questions to answer, like what did I do yesterday? What is the work that I finished? What will I do today? Problems to resolve. These are the main elements that have to be discussed, and the problems will be addressed later by the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master has to create the environment that the team can work optimally. The next thing is the sprint review. At the end of the sprint, we have to look at the work that has been completed and what is the outcome of it. What was changed in the environment? Now, the participants have to collaborate on what to do next. And what happens also when you do the sprint review, you may review the backlog and you can add new opportunities or remove things that you didn't like or that are not necessary anymore. So it's very flexible. And be sure that the sprint review is a working session. It should not be a presentation. You're just showing the things to the people. You're showing what is going on, and you discuss about the possibilities. You're not giving a presentation where everybody is watching, and finally at the end you will say, okay, that's nice, and you have to discuss about the possibilities. You have to make the people take decisions and typically find out what can be done better. Retrospectives, well, at the end of every sprint there is a retrospective, and the goal of the retrospective is to have a continuous improvement. Now, we have to see what went well, what did we do well, what are the things where we improved, what we found out, and of course we also have to see what went wrong. Where did we have problems? What problems did we have? How can we resolve these problems? How can we improve the next sprint? It's very important that you find out how can we go faster. Now, when you look at improvements, I already mentioned it before, they should be around 200 to 300%. That's typically what is estimated by Scrum teams, that you start with the sprints and the improvement should be 2 times, 3 times better. Now, when you have like 30, 40, 50%, it's even not bad, but then it is considered that there is still something wrong with let's say, with the iterations, and you could do better. It's only for the pick, so it's only for the team who are working on this. They are finding out what has to be done better. It's not about the customer, and this is very important that they have it. Now, we have to look at the uncompleted work. First of all, improvements that have to be done. And what happens with the work that we didn't complete? Because it's possible that we finished some work or that we were working on some stories that were not completed, that we didn't have time to complete, or with which we had problems. And then we have to decide, are these good items, yes or no? Will we add them to the backlog? Will they have the same priority? Will we reschedule them? Will we replace them by some other stories? When we look at tools and artifacts in Scrum, we have different elements that we are going to use. First of all, we have the Scrum board. The Scrum board is the visualization of the sprint backlog, and we typically use index cards. These index cards can be electronic index cards or they can be post-its, and we have different categories to show the status of the tasks by moving the cards from left to right. So when we move a card, we finish we put the card in the next item so other people can start working on it, and the team can keep on doing the work, adding those activities, and we see at every time the work that was planned, what is the progress at this moment, and at the end we can see what is the final result, what is the result of our sprint, what work has been completed, what was not completed, and why. Then we have the user stories. We have a story describing a feature from the customer's perspective. So the customer has to describe what has to be done. It includes elements like the type of user, what they want, and why they want it. So you try to describe the work that has to be completed in the best way. We have a burn down chart. The burn down chart represents all the work to be completed. We have two elements there. We have the backlog on the vertical axis, and we typically express it in points. And on the horizontal line is the time. Now, it gives you a view on progress and possible issues. We will look later into the different types of the burn down chart, how a burn down chart has to be interpreted, how we can use it, and so on. Time boxing. Or a time box is a set period of time that the team works towards completing a goal. The time box indicates the time the team can work on a task, and work ends when its time is over. So you have the time boxing, you have the time set for doing the work, and once the time is over, the work has to be stopped. We have the ice box, basically all the user stories that are recorded but not moved to development are moved to the ice box. So we keep them somewhere. We don't throw them out. They can be useful later, but it all depends. So we consider in all the work we are doing, all the stories that are not in the ice box. So it was an overview of Scrum, all the things we do in Scrum, the tools, the different parts of the Scrum cycle. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell button, and every time we have a new video, YouTube will inform you about it. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.